Hey, what's up everyone? So I was just watching this video called Police, when the President follows the Constitution, I will, a legal stopover open carry. And I think it's a guy who was in Pennsylvania who was stopped by police for openly carrying a firearm. And what this is highlighting um, is the misconception that many people have on what reasonable suspicion means as far as stopping people. And reasonable suspicion is, the level of suspicion aroused needed for police to just do a stop of a person that's limited in duration, to the reasons why they'd be, seeking out the person for the stop. And it has to be clear and articulable. It can't just be a hunch. And how this ties into someone, making a phone call into police about somebody, walking along the sidewalk carrying a gun, is that you can't just be stopped for conducting legal activity simply because someone says you look suspicious. In other words, you can't just be, stopped as you're walking because someone gets a phone call and says, "Oh, I think someone, looks suspicious out there. Please, send an officer." And you can see very easily why that principle exists with this example. Say, for example, some racist, we'll say a white person sees a black person walking down the street on the sidewalk, and they say, "Ooh, they're suspicious because they're black," right? Well, they just call the police and say, "There's a suspicious person walking down the street. He's African American, and he's wearing like a blue polo, and he has jeans on and some, Nikes." Simply telling the police, "Oh, I think someone's suspicious," is not enough to stop somebody. It has to be describing criminal activity. Otherwise, the Fourth Amendment Constitution, which is already, pretty meaningless in the broad scale, but otherwise the protections that people have from, not being interfered with by the government are meaningless. You're basically Nazi Germany, which, don't get me wrong, we already kind of are in that, and I don't want to get sidetracked with the TSA, but yeah, they're your Gestapo, for the modern day that's coming. But in any case, the point being is that you are not able to just be randomly stopped and searched like some, Soviet checkpoint. Someone can't just say, "Oh, somebody looks suspicious," and that's enough. Or somebody can't just say, "Oh, that person has a gun," for, states where it's legal for you to carry it in the manner you're carrying it. They have, some person has to describe something of an illegal nature. They have to describe something leading to illegality. And where somebody is just simply carrying a gun and somebody just says, "Oh, I see someone walking with a gun on their side," and then police roll up and they just see somebody walking with a gun, holstered, where that's legal, for open carry, which is in a lot of states. That's not a reason to stop somebody. That it's just a hunch. The description was not a description of illegal activity, and there's no reason to stop. Now, the police officers could more than walk up to that person and try to engage in a consensual encounter, try to talk to them, try to say, "Hey, what you doing there?" Or, "Oh, wonder if you got any ID for that gun, you know what I mean, or are you a felon?" They could try to engage in typical police, semantics and tactics and all their deceptive lying bullcrap that they're allowed to do under the law. But they can't stop somebody. They can't, say stop, can't say halt, can't go up and touch the person or do, assuming the facts are, from the video that I watched, that it's legal to open carry. All they had was somebody was walking carrying a gun, and they roll up and he just has a gun in his holster. That's not enough to just go and take somebody's gun out of their holster, assuming there, wasn't a legislatively crafted ability to do this. It's not criminal. Where it's not criminal and there isn't a statutory authorization, there's no reason legally to do that, at least coming from the criminal aspect of reasonable suspicion, to stop somebody. And then, of course, we could also talk real quick, if you'd like, if you're interested, about the Terry aspect. Terry v. Ohio, it's the concept that police officers can do a frisk of a person. And that, again, is only related to weapons. So, in other words, an officer has to have a reasonable suspicion in addition that somebody has a weapon on them, and it's only a light outer padding of the clothing. Of course, they try to get away with, really grabbing you, but it's really only supposed to be a light outer padding of the clothing for officer safety pursuant to reasonable suspicion for criminal activity. So again, wrapping this up, people just seem to not understand the concept that reasonable suspicion is not based on a hunch. It's not a hunch that someone committed a crime. It's not a description that somebody says, oh, they look suspicious. It has to be clearly articulated and related to something of a criminal nature. Why? Because the obvious aspect of being ripe for abuse is there. You know, just saying, oh, they look suspicious, if that's all it takes, just think about all it takes then to undermine anybody's rights. It's just completely subjective, it's meaningless, and it's not related to actually preventing criminal harms. So, hope that explains this reasonable suspicion confusion, and definitely check out the video. I put a link down below if you want to see it. But this type of activity with police acting this way just, needs to stop, and people need to be filing complaints, filing lawsuits, working together, going in groups, and doing whatever they can to fight back for liberty. So, take care, guys, and I'll talk to you later.